Hello, and welcome to this episode of Weir Wednesday. Here, we dive deeper to investigate artworks from the Samuel E. Weir collection. My name is Lindsay Ann Chilcott, and I'm a student curatorial assistant here at RiverBrink Art Museum in Queenston, Ontario. Today, we will be looking at the painting Twilight by Thomson. This oil painting on a wooden panel was purchased by Samuel Weir in December of 1949 from the Gavin Henderson Galleries in Toronto, Canada. Twilight has also been identified as Tom Thomson's Shack or Tom Thomson's Shack on Severn Street. It is a landscape depicting a small construction hut adjacent to a building under construction, possibly the studio building in the Rosedale Ravine in Toronto. This painting, in shades of icy blues and browns, is a rare depiction of human presence in the landscape by Thomson. The tall, bare trees surround the structure as snow settles on the ground. The studio building is a three-story, brick-clad concrete structure built in 1914 and financed by Lauren Harris and Dr. James McCallum. The two philanthropists hope to provide low-rent studio spaces and a gathering place for artists producing distinctly Canadian art. The architect was Eden Smith. This building is now designated as a National Historic Site in 2004. It was the first purpose-built artist studio in Canada, and it was once home to Thomson himself and A.Y. Jackson. This image depicts Tom Thomson's shack that is relocated to the McMichael Canadian Art Collection. Thomas John Thomson, also known as Tom Thomson, was born on August 5th of 1877 in Claremont, Ontario, a farming town not far from Toronto. He was brought up at Leith on the shores of Georgian Bay. Thomson grew up wandering the coniferous forests near his home on the Bruce Peninsula, learning to appreciate nature and observe it closely. After an unpromising beginning as a mechanist, he worked as a photo engraver in Seattle, Washington from 1901 to 1904. During this time, Thomson studied calligraphy at the Canada Business College and Acme Business College. Thomson moved to Toronto in 1905 and began taking night classes from William Cruikshank, a British artist well-trained in the academic tradition who taught painting at the Central Ontario School of Art and Industrial Design, now known as OCAD University. In 1909, Thomson joined the art department of Grip Limited in Toronto, where the members of the Group of Seven originally met for the first time. Very few examples from Thomson's years at Grip can be firmly attributed to him, though the pieces that exist do reveal some of the elements and decorative patterns that marked his later paintings. In 1912, Thomson made his first sketching trip by canoe. After he completed his first large canvas based on the sketch, the Ontario government purchased the work and Thomson began his career as a dedicated painter. Old Lumber Dam, Algonquin Park from 1912 is a sketch that illustrates his transition from the formalities of commercial art to a more imaginative style of unique painting. By 1913, Thomson began going on weekend-long painting trips to Lake Scugog and other rural locations not far from Toronto. Although his early paintings, such as Northern Lake in 1912 to 1913 and Evening from 1913, are neither sophisticated nor technically outstanding, they show more than average ability in their composition and handling of color. In 1914, Thomson was painting full-time, and from here, he would travel every spring to Algonquin Park and stay into the fall. In 1914, Thomson was painting full-time, and from here, he would travel every spring to Algonquin Park and stay into the fall. Thomson spent 3 to 4 winter months in Toronto painting canvases in the studio building on Severn Street. During this time, his career began emerging as the National Gallery of Canada began purchasing a few of his works, bringing recognition to the artist. Moonlight from 1913 to 14 was one of these paintings. Thomson spent long trips in Algonquin Park while creating more oil sketches on wood panels. Opulent October from 1915 to 16 is a prime example of his increasing artistic power. By using his sketch as a model, Thomson recreated it as a larger size, a process that proved to be breakthrough for him. Once he realized he could make a gigantic leap from a sketch to a completely different treatment of the subject, his full range of abilities, mental, aesthetic, technical, and emotional, were liberated to create his most remarkable works. Thomson's stack of sketches continued to grow, diverse in subject matter, varied in comparison, vivid in color, thick with vigorously applied pigment, and inspired by the landscape he understood so deeply. Over the winter of 1916 to 17, Thomson enjoyed the most productive months of his life while he created 10 major canvases, 2 of them being the Jack Pine and the West Wind. Both are based on sketches from the spring of 1916. RiverBrink is actually home to the sketch of the Jack Pine. The sketches from the spring and early summer of 1917 confirm that Thomson had risen to an even higher artistic plateau. The Rapids from 1917 demonstrates the assured hand with which he created his compositions. His brushstrokes became bold and expressive, and he seemed to be moving inexorably towards abstraction. The flat pattern, swinging line, and rich texture of the larger pictures reflect the influence of the Art Nouveau style then in vogue. But in his sketches, the strong color, bold design, and rapid brushwork have a conviction and expressive force never equaled in his paintings. On the morning of July 8, 1917, Thomson was seen alive for the last time walking down to Joe Lake Dam. His body was found in Canoe Lake 8 days later, and his death was ruled as an accidental drowning. Tom Thomson's Twilight is currently on display in the Center and Periphery exhibition at RiverBrink Art Museum in Queenston, Ontario. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Weir Wednesday, and I hope to see you next time.